Hey everybody, I hope that Project Hope is going well for you, and I hope that you're making some progress on finding your next role. Today, the topic is networking and the importance of networking in finding a job and building your career. So a few points on networking, and we'll cover three things in particular. The first is who to target. Who do you talk to? It's important. You probably have a very large number of people that are friends or acquaintances of yours that you may not even be considering for networking. But really, you want to think about what the types of jobs that you're searching out and what types of jobs those are. So in the case of Project Hope, we're preparing you for a Salesforce administrator career. So you might want to think about organizations that are a little bit more technology focused. Maybe your friends who are in sales, or your friends that are in business development, if you have any, or even customer service. Those are all good places to start if you're networking for a Salesforce administrator job. But really the focus around networking there is on who you know. Write down a list or type it in an Excel spreadsheet, or somehow take an inventory of all of your friends and family who are in some kind of professional setting, and just start there. So maybe your list is 50 people long. Really, the longer the better. At this point, you don't really want to exclude anybody. So that's the first step. Take inventory of all the people that you might know. The second step then is to identify where those people work and what they do for a living. And you want to prioritize those people who are in careers or at places that you may want to work, that you think would be a good place for you to explore. And again, or that are in roles that are similar, or at least might touch technology like Salesforce. So first step, identify all the people in your network that might be able to help you find a job, and then filter them down a little bit. So that's the first step. Next, now that you have a prioritized list, and you have, let's pretend you have 20 people that you know that are friends and family, obviously it makes sense to start conversations with those that you're closest with. And really what your objective here is, you want to start those conversations. Your objective, there's two parts to it. Number one is you want to try to provide them with help and find ways that you can help them, whatever that looks like. So maybe it's you have a skill that you can just help them free, pro bono, for something in their organization. That's a possibility. If you don't have a skill that they could benefit from, find another way to help them. Maybe you know somebody that is looking for a job that fits a position they have open, but that you're not looking for. So maybe you can make a connection for them. But finding some way to help your network, the people that you're reaching out to, is a good objective. And then of course your second objective and primary objective here is to understand what jobs they may have either open, or might know somebody who has a job open that you might be interested in. That's your objective. So you're trying to understand what positions they have, and or do they know people that might have a position that's similar. So diving into those pieces a little bit, the helping others part. Your very closest friends and family are likely to take a meeting with you, a virtual meeting, whenever. So those are fairly easy and straightforward, right? Hey, Sally, I want to talk with you. As you know, I lost my job, and you work at such and such company. I want to talk with you about what positions you have open. Those are good places to start, because you're not quite guaranteed, but there's a very high likelihood that they're going to take your meeting. And they're going to be very open and honest with you. And once you are at those meetings, again, you're asking how you can help them, but you're picking their brain about their organization, the jobs that they have open at their company. And then again, that's the primary focus. And then next, you're also asking about who might you know. So you're telling them, I'm looking for a Salesforce administrator job, a company that has Salesforce and needs somebody entry level that might need my skills. A benefit of doing it this way is that by talking to your closest friends and family, if they refer you someplace, so you're looking for a referral to either a hiring manager in their company, that's the best case, or referring you to somebody else in their network, so that you expand your network. But with your closest friends and family, they're going to say very good things about you. They're going to speak authentically, and they're going to speak very highly of your capabilities, and that's really, really important. So that goes a long ways. There's a lot of statistics and data out there that indicate you have way more success in finding a job. And we are not, I am not an employment expert by any means, and MLR is not an employment expert. But I know that the stats say you're much more likely to find your next job through networking and those types of activities than you are just by sending a cold resume to a company where you don't know anybody or anything. It's really, really important. Knowing people does matter. And if they can speak highly of you and about you as a person and your qualities, that's going to help you a tremendous amount. So next step is you've had your conversation with your close network, the people closest in your life, and maybe they have given you an introduction, a warm introduction to somebody in their network who you don't know. So your friend has a friend, but you don't know their friend. A couple important tips there in those scenarios. If that introduction is through email, then I would encourage you to be fairly timely in your follow-up and what I like to call politely persistent. So that is, if your friend made an introduction to one of their friends and said, hey, Jesse's a good person, he's looking for a Salesforce administrator job, just wanted to connect the two of you for that reason, I might wait either a few hours or even the next day, but not any longer than that, to follow up on that email and say, hey Bob, really nice to meet you. My friend says good things about you. Always nice to compliment people. And say, yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm looking for a Salesforce administrator job, and I'd love to talk about maybe how I can help you with something in your position. The politely persistent part is, if they respond, great, now you have a new network connection, and you just continue that cycle until you can either find something specific to help them immediately or find a job, which is your ultimate objective, right? But if they don't respond right away that day, and of course you are very, very eager to find a job, politely persistent might be the next day being very polite about it and say, hey Bob, I know you're very busy and you have a lot going on. I'd love to have a conversation with you and just follow up in that manner. I'm happy to set it up for you, and I'd love to explore how I could maybe help you in your role, as well as understand what jobs you may have open. Okay? If they still don't respond, being politely persistent, you can do a couple things. One might be, you might ask your friend, hey, is this normal? Is Bob a pretty busy person? And if they say, yeah, it's a little hard to get a hold of, then that's okay. You follow up again. If they say, yeah, no, that's it's a little bit unusual, you have to understand and put yourself into Bob's shoes. That person may be very busy. They might have other priorities. They might be dealing with their own things. They might not read their email very regularly. But being persistent, you wait another day or two, and then you can follow up again. And you can do this either through phone or through email. In my example, it was just through email, but either way, and just follow up again and say, hey, my friend talks very highly of you. Again, I would love to have a conversation with you. And it's okay to say, I've lost my job recently, and I'm very eager to understand if you have any Salesforce administrator positions open, because that person might recognize, oh, I didn't realize you had lost your job, Jesse. That must not be very fun, and now I want to help. So that's a good way to stay persistent What you don't want to do is have your friend make an invitation or a networking connection and say, sure, Jesse, let me help you. I have this friend Bob who works at such and such company, and they make an introduction via email and say, hey, Jesse lost his job, he wants to talk with you. What you don't want to do is leave it all on that person to reach out to you. A key here is you want to be proactive in driving the conversation, because the fact of the matter is you're the person who really wants to find their next job, whereas Bob's incentive might simply just be because he's friends with our mutual friend and he's just doing them a favor. So you do not want to wait for the connection that you just made to reach out directly to you. You want to be politely persistent in at least having a conversation. And then you have conversations like that. You offer help wherever you can, free work that might involve my own skills, or in some other way connecting them to somebody, or something useful and helpful is a really good way to show that goodwill. And they're doing you a favor, why not do them a favor too? So that's, I think, a good strategy. And then once you have a conversation where there is an indication where they might say, yeah, actually we have an open Salesforce administrator job, I will introduce you to the hiring manager. That's a very good sign, and that's very helpful for you. Again, any warm introduction, as an employer, when one of our staff members comes and says, hey, for your open client services role, I have a friend who's really bright and talented, and they're looking for that role. Would you like to talk with them? That sort of jumps you up, in the world of all the resumes and things. It makes you stand out, and it's a helpful way for you to at least get an interview. And so that is how I would approach networking. Again, I would set aside some time specifically for networking. So I would set aside 2, 3, 4 hours. There's not really a right answer, but the point is that you set up time specifically in your day and protect that time to reach out to your friends in your network and start those conversations. I think that with those tips, that'll be a really good way for you to get started with basic networking, and will really help you find yourself in interviews and put you on your way to finding your next job. I hope this was helpful. Good luck with week 3 and week 4 of Project Hope, and I'll talk with you soon.